Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Carmen sat on the couch, clutching a framed photograph of her mother. Tears streamed down her face as she traced her finger along the edges of the picture, remembering the warmth of her mother's smile. A gentle knock on the door pulled Carmen from her reverie. She hastily wiped her eyes and cleared her throat. "Come in," she called out, her voice cracking slightly. The door creaked open and Jennifer stepped inside. Her dark hair was pulled back into a messy bun and she wore a faded blue t-shirt and jeans. Her eyes softened as she took in Carmen's tear-stained face. "Oh, honey," Jennifer murmured, crossing the room in a few quick strides. She sat down next to Carmen and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I'm so sorry. I know how much you miss her." Carmen leaned into Jennifer's embrace, feeling the familiar comfort of her partner's presence. "It's been 6 months," she whispered. "I thought it would get easier, but some days it feels like I'm right back at the beginning." Jennifer rubbed soothing circles on Carmen's back. "Grief doesn't follow a timeline, love. It's okay to have good days and bad days." Carmen nodded, sniffling softly. She set the photograph down on the coffee table and turned to face Jennifer. "Thank you for being here. I don't know what I'd do without you." Jennifer's lips curved into a gentle smile. "You don't have to thank me. I'm always here for you, no matter what." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the ticking of the clock on the wall. Carmen's mind wandered, as it often did these days, to the secret she'd been carrying for years. The weight of it pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. "Jen," Carmen said hesitantly, her heart racing. "There's something I need to tell you." Jennifer's brow furrowed with concern. "What is it? You know you can tell me anything." Carmen took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. I've been struggling with something for a long time, and I think it's time I finally admitted it out loud." Jennifer reached out and took Carmen's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Take your time. I'm listening." "I'm attracted to women," Carmen began, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's more than that. I long to be a woman myself." The words hung in the air between them, and Carmen held her breath, waiting for Jennifer's reaction. To her surprise, Jennifer's expression softened, and she pulled Carmen into a tight hug. "Oh, sweetheart," Jennifer murmured. "Thank you for trusting me with this. I love you, and I want you to be happy and true to yourself." Relief washed over Carmen, and she felt tears spring to her eyes once more. "You're not upset?" Jennifer pulled back, cupping Carmen's face in her hands. "Of course not! I fell in love with you, not your gender. If this is who you truly are, then I want to support you every step of the way." Carmen let out a shaky breath, feeling as though a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "I've been so scared to tell anyone. I didn't want to disappoint my parents or lose you." "You could never disappoint me," Jennifer assured her. "And your mom? I think she would have wanted you to be happy, to live authentically." At the mention of her mother, Carmen's eyes drifted back to the photograph on the coffee table. "I wish I could have told her," she said softly. Jennifer followed Carmen's gaze. "Maybe she knew in her own way. Mothers have a way of sensing these things." Carmen nodded, lost in thought. She remembered moments when her mother would look at her with a knowing glance or offer a comforting touch when Carmen seemed particularly distressed. Had she known all along? "What do you want to do now?" Jennifer asked gently, bringing Carmen back to the present. Carmen bit her lip, considering the question. "I'm not sure. I've spent so long hiding this part of myself, I don't even know where to begin." Jennifer squeezed her hand. "We can take it one step at a time. Maybe start with small things, like exploring different clothing or hairstyles." A flutter of excitement mixed with anxiety in Carmen's stomach. "That sounds nice, but I'm scared. What if I'm not convincing as a woman? What if people laugh or stare? Then they're not worth your time. Jennifer said firmly. "You are beautiful and valid, no matter what anyone else thinks, and I'll be right here beside you every step of the way." Carmen felt a surge of love for her partner. "What did I do to deserve you?" Jennifer grinned. "You're just lucky, I guess." They shared a soft laugh, and for a moment the weight of grief and secrets lifted. Carmen felt a glimmer of hope for the future, knowing she had Jennifer's support. The moment was interrupted by the shrill ring of Carmen's phone. She glanced at the caller ID and saw her father's name flashing on the screen. "It's Dad," she said, her voice tinged with worry. "I should take this." Jennifer nodded, giving Carmen's hand one last squeeze before standing up. "I'll give you some privacy. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me." Carmen watched Jennifer leave the room before answering the call. "Hey, Dad, is everything okay?" Her father's deep voice came through the speaker, sounding tired but warm. "Hi, sweetheart. Everything's fine. I just wanted to check in on you. How are you holding up?" Carmen sank back into the couch cushions, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. "I'm managing. Some days are harder than others." "I know, honey. I miss her, too." There was a pause, and Carmen could hear her father taking a deep breath. "Listen, there's something I need to talk to you about. Your mother's will." Carmen's heart skipped a beat. "What about it?" "The lawyer called today. Apparently, there's a portion of the will that was meant to be read after a certain amount of time had passed. He wants us to come in tomorrow to go over it." Confusion and curiosity swirled in Carmen's mind. That's strange. Did he say what it was about? No, he didn't give any details. Just that it was important and that your mother had been very specific about the timing. Carmen ran a hand through her hair, trying to process this new information. "Okay, what time should we meet?" They arranged the details for the meeting, and after a few more minutes of small talk, Carmen said goodbye to her father. She sat in silence for a moment, her thoughts racing. What could her mother have left that required such specific timing? Jennifer's voice called from the kitchen. "Everything okay?" Carmen stood up and made her way to the kitchen, where Jennifer was busy preparing dinner. The smell of sautéing garlic and onions filled the air. "My dad called," Carmen explained, leaning against the counter. "Apparently, there's some part of Mom's will that the lawyer wants to go over tomorrow, something that was meant to be read after a certain amount of time had passed." Jennifer raised an eyebrow, stirring the contents of the pan. "That's intriguing. Any idea what it could be?" Carmen shook her head. "No clue. Mom never mentioned anything like that to me." "Well, I guess you'll find out tomorrow," Jennifer said, offering a reassuring smile. "Try not to worry about it too much tonight. Why don't you help me with dinner? It'll take your mind off things." Grateful for the distraction, Carmen nodded and moved to wash her hands. As they worked side by side in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and seasoning the dish, Carmen felt a sense of normalcy return. The weight of her confession earlier and the mystery of her mother's will faded into the background, replaced by the comforting routine of cooking with her partner. Later that night, as Carmen lay in bed, her mind drifted back to the upcoming meeting. What could her mother have left that required such specific timing? And why hadn't she mentioned it before she passed? Carmen tossed and turned, her imagination conjuring up various scenarios, each more unlikely than the last. Jennifer stirred beside her, reaching out to pull Carmen close. "Can't sleep," she murmured, her voice thick with drowsiness. Carmen sighed, nestling into Jennifer's embrace. "Just thinking about tomorrow." "Try not to overthink it," Jennifer advised, pressing a soft kiss to Carmen's forehead. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Carmen nodded, feeling some of the tension leave her body. She closed her eyes and focused on the steady rhythm of Jennifer's breathing, letting it lull her into a fitful sleep. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to Carmen's tumultuous emotions. She stood in front of the mirror, scrutinizing her reflection as she buttoned up a crisp white shirt. Her dark hair fell in waves around her face, and she resisted the urge to pull it back into a ponytail. Instead, she let it frame her features, softening the angles of her jaw and cheekbones. Jennifer appeared behind her, wrapping her arms around Carmen's waist. "You look beautiful," she said, meeting Carmen's eyes in the mirror. Carmen managed a small smile, though her stomach was in knots. "Thanks, I'm so nervous about this meeting." "It's going to be okay," Jennifer reassured her. "Remember, whatever happens, I'm here for you." They shared a hug before heading out the door. The drive to the lawyer's office was quiet, with Carmen lost in thought and Jennifer respecting her need for silence. When they arrived, Carmen's father was already waiting outside, his silver hair neatly combed and his face etched with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Hi, Dad," Carmen said, giving him a quick hug. He smiled warmly, nodding a greeting to Jennifer. "Ready to go in?" Carmen took a deep breath and nodded. The three of them entered the building together, making their way to the lawyer's office on the 3rd floor. The receptionist, a young woman with bright red hair, greeted them with a polite smile. "Mr. Reeves will see you now," she said, gesturing towards a door to their left. As they entered the office, Carmen's heart raced. The lawyer, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a receding hairline, stood to greet them. "Thank you all for coming," he said, shaking their hands in turn. "Please, have a seat." They settled into the plush leather chairs facing his desk. Mr. Reeves sat down and pulled out a file, his expression solemn. "As I mentioned on the phone," he began, addressing Carmen's father, "there is a portion of Mrs. Martinez's will that she requested be read 6 months after her passing. Today marks exactly 6 months since her death." Carmen's father nodded, his brow furrowed. "Yes, but I don't understand why the delay." Mr. Reeves turned his attention to Carmen. "Mrs. Martinez left specific instructions and items for you, Carmen. She wanted to ensure you had time to grieve before receiving them." Carmen's breath caught in her throat. "For me? What kind of items?" The lawyer reached under his desk and produced a small cardboard box. "This is the first of several boxes your mother left for you. She was very clear that you should open this one here, in the presence of your father and partner." With trembling hands, Carmen accepted the box. It was lighter than she expected, and she could hear something shifting inside as she set it on her lap. "Go ahead," Mr. Reeves encouraged gently. "Open it." Carmen glanced at her father and Jennifer, who both nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, she lifted the lid of the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of tissue paper, was an envelope with her name written in her mother's familiar handwriting. "It's a letter," Carmen said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Would you like to read it aloud?" Mr. Reeves asked. Carmen hesitated, then nodded. She carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. Her mother's words, written in flowing script, filled the page. "My dearest Carmen, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you, and 6 months have passed since my departure. I hope this time has allowed you to begin healing, though I know the pain of loss never truly fades. There's so much I want to say to you, so much I wish I could have told you in person. But sometimes life doesn't give us the time we need to say everything that's in our hearts. So I'm writing this letter, hoping that my words will reach you when you need them most. First and foremost, I want you to know how much I love you. You have been the light of my life since the day you were born, and nothing could ever change that. Your kindness, your creativity, your gentle spirit, these are the qualities that make you who you are, and they are beautiful beyond measure. Carmen, my sweet child, I know your secret. I've known for a long time that you dream of being a woman, that you feel trapped in a body that doesn't reflect who you truly are inside. I want you to know that I see you, I accept you, and I love you unconditionally. I'm sorry I didn't find the courage to talk to you about this while I was alive. I was afraid of saying the wrong thing, of pushing you before you were ready. But I hope that by writing this letter, I can give you the support and encouragement you deserve. In the boxes I've left for you, you'll find clothing, accessories, and other items that I hope will help you explore and express your true self. Some of these things were mine, others I bought specifically for you. Each item was chosen with love and the hope that it will bring you joy and comfort as you begin this journey. Remember, my darling, that your identity is valid. You are not confused or going through a phase. You are you in all your beautiful complexity, and that is something to be celebrated. To your father, who I know is listening, our child needs your love and support now more than ever. Please open your heart and mind. The person sitting before you is the same wonderful human we've always loved, just with a clearer understanding of who they truly are. And to Jennifer, whose love for Carmen has been a source of comfort to me. Thank you for being there for my child. I hope you'll continue to stand by Carmen's side as she embarks on this new chapter of her life. Carmen, my love, I wish I could be there to hold you, to tell you how proud I am of you for being true to yourself. But know that I am with you in spirit, cheering you on every step of the way. Be brave, be kind, and above all, be yourself. You are loved, you are worthy, and you are beautiful. All my love, Mom. As Carmen finished reading, her voice cracked on the last word. Tears streamed down her face, and she clutched the letter to her chest. The room was silent save for her quiet sobs. Jennifer reached out and took Carmen's hand, squeezing it gently. Carmen's father sat motionless, his face a mixture of shock and concern. Mr. Reeves cleared his throat softly. There are several more boxes at my office, as your mother mentioned. Would you like me to have them delivered to your home? Carmen nodded, unable to speak. She felt overwhelmed by a tidal wave of emotions, grief, relief, love, and a glimmer of hope. Her father finally broke his silence. Carmen, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me? Carmen looked up at him, her eyes brimming with tears. I was scared, Dad. I didn't want to disappoint you or Mom. I thought you might not love me anymore if you knew. Her father's face crumpled, and he moved to kneel in front of Carmen's chair. He took her hands in his eyes fierce with love and determination. Nothing in this world could ever make me stop loving you. You are my child, and that will never change. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you couldn't come to me with this. Fresh tears spilled down Carmen's cheeks as she threw her arms around her father's neck. They held each other tightly, years of unspoken fears and love pouring out in that embrace. Jennifer watched the scene unfold, her own eyes glistening with tears. She caught Mr. Reeves's eye, and the lawyer nodded, understanding the need for privacy. He quietly excused himself, promising to arrange for the delivery of the remaining boxes. As Carmen and her father separated, Jennifer spoke up. Carmen shared her feelings with me yesterday, she said softly. I want you both to know that I love Carmen, and I'm here to support her in whatever way she needs. Carmen's father nodded, a look of gratitude crossing his face. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad Carmen has you in her life. The three of them sat in silence for a moment, processing the enormity of what had just transpired. Carmen's mind was reeling, trying to absorb her mother's words and the implications they held for her future. What do you want to do now? Jennifer asked gently, breaking the silence. Carmen took a deep breath, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I think I want to go home and open the rest of the boxes. Maybe start exploring who I really am. Her father nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Whatever you need, sweetheart. We're here for you. As they left the lawyer's office, Carmen felt as though she was stepping into a new world. The secret she had carried for so long was out in the open, and while it was terrifying, it was also incredibly freeing. With her father's acceptance and Jennifer's unwavering support, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The drive home was quiet, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Carmen's father had insisted on following them back to the apartment, wanting to be there when the rest of the boxes arrived. As they pulled into the parking lot, Carmen spotted a delivery truck already waiting. That must be them, she said, her voice a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They made their way up to the apartment, the delivery person following with a dolly stacked with several cardboard boxes. Once everything was inside and the delivery person had left, Carmen stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the boxes with a sense of wonder. "Do you want us to stay while you open them?" her father asked, his voice gentle. Carmen nodded. "Yes, please. I think I need you both here for this." Jennifer moved to the kitchen. "I'll make us some tea. This feels like a moment that calls for tea." As Jennifer busied herself in the kitchen, Carmen and her father settled on the couch. Carmen pulled the first box towards her, her hands shaking slightly as she opened it. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a beautiful emerald green dress. Carmen lifted it out, marveling at the soft fabric and elegant cut. Underneath the dress was a note in her mother's handwriting. "I saw this and thought of your eyes. You would look stunning in it." Tears pricked at Carmen's eyes once more. She looked up at her father, who was watching her with a mix of emotions on his face. "It's beautiful," he said softly. "Your mother always had excellent taste." Carmen nodded, unable to speak. She carefully set the dress aside and reached for the next box. This one contained a selection of makeup high-quality brands and shades that would complement Carmen's skin tone. Another note read, "For when you're ready to show the world your true face." Jennifer returned with a tray of steaming mugs, setting them down on the coffee table. She sat down next to Carmen, offering silent support as they continued to explore the contents of the boxes. Each box seemed to hold a new treasure: shoes in Carmen's size, jewelry that had belonged to her mother, books on makeup application and fashion, and even a wig in a shade close to Carmen's natural hair color. With each item, Carmen felt a surge of love for her mother, who had put so much thought and care into these gifts. The final box was smaller than the others. When Carmen opened it, she found a simple silver locket. Inside was a tiny photo of her mother on one side and on the other, an inscription. "To my daughter, Carmen, always be true to yourself." At this, Carmen broke down, clutching the locket to her chest as sobs racked her body. Jennifer wrapped her arms around her, holding her close, while her father rested a comforting hand on her shoulder. "She knew," Carmen choked out between sobs. "She knew, and she loved me anyway." "Of course she did," her father said, his own voice thick with emotion. "And so do I, so do we all." As Carmen's tears subsided, she looked up at her father and Jennifer, overwhelmed by the love and acceptance she saw in their eyes. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of hope for the future, a future where she could truly be herself. "What do you want to do now?" Jennifer asked softly, brushing a strand of hair from Carmen's face. Carmen took a deep breath, her mind racing with possibilities. I think I want to try on the dress," she said hesitantly. "And maybe you could help me with the makeup?" Jennifer smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I'd be honored." Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon if you want to have early access to the other parts. If not, it will be online in a couple of days.